Got our summary notes.
You got some? Yeah.
That's all good.
Just like got a lot of moving.
Okay.
I've got a lot of moving too.
Oh. All right.
If you do that one.
Yeah.
and I'll see.
Yeah.
Then you can close if you want to.
Yeah, sure.
Okay?
Right.
Yep, cool.
Yes, and
Okay, so that's now cancel.
Yeah. Chris. All right. Good. All right. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So welcome to tonight's meeting. So first I'd like to acknowledge the Wadawurrung people and pay my respects to their elders, and also acknowledge all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are part of our Greater Geelong community and here with us this evening. This meeting is being broadcast on the internet, and the recording of the meeting will be published on Council's website. First of all, apologies. We don't need any apologies. We're all here tonight, but there are a number of leave of absence that have been requested. Councillor Rowan Story for the dates 5 May until 11 May 2025 inclusive. Can I have someone move that? Councillor Nelson and Councillor Wilkinson. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. And also Councillor Eddie Contel for the dates 4th of August till the 16th of August inclusive. Can I have a mover? Councillor Sinclair and Councillor Wilkinson. So all those in favour? It's carried unanimously. So declarations of conflict of interest. Anyone have a conflict this evening they wish to declare at this stage? No? So we next move into public question time. So we have a series of questions that have been, confirmation of minutes. Sorry, apologies. Can I have someone move the minutes of the council meeting that was held on 25 March 2023? Councillor Story moves, and Councillor Katos seconds. So all those in favour, and that's unanimous. Right. So public question time. My apologies. So we've received 8 pre-submitted questions from the community this evening, covering various topics. I'll call up the submitters as I've got them here, and we will endeavour to give you an answer here in person. But in addition to that, I believe that everyone who has submitted a question has also received a written response this evening ahead of the meeting. So I'll call up the first submitted question is Siana Lazic. Is Siana Lazic in the room? No. All right. So Dean Vella. Vella?
G'day. How are you all?
Very good, thank you. So if you could just read your question and then we'll seek to give you an answer.
Yep. Questions regarding back in December 2021, even predate, we started a UDF discussion for Geelong West, Packington Street and Gordon Avenue. The question basically is around Geelong West in terms of what the council is going to do to rectify some hazards within the area regarding footpaths, bins, local landscapes. I've been a Geelong resident pretty much my whole life, but Geelong West itself for about 15 years. I've spoken to Christine Cousins in the past, local mayors and members. Of yet haven't seen much work done to Packington Street. The street itself is something we celebrate as a community, multiculturalism with Paco Festa and whatnot. I believe this street is in a decrepit state. It's a hazard to the public. Elderly people have tripped over in front of my eyes in the past, and I basically bring forward and put this question to yourselves, councillors and local ward members, about what can be done. Where do we look for budget? How do we start talking about a road to improvement in this area that we all vastly celebrate, yet is in a state of decrepit decay?
I'll invite Jackie Randall, Executive Director for Placemaking, to provide some commentary on that, please.
Thank you very much for your question and for the interest in the area. So both the Packington Street and Gordon Avenue UDF and Packington Street North UDF have implementation actions. The public exhibition for the planning scheme amendment is scheduled for mid-2025 this year. The delivery of other actions, especially in relation to streetscape, needs significant funding, which has not been available to date. Under the asset renewal, a budget for general street beautification has been identified. The community will be invited to provide comments on the draft budget, including if the priorities identified are reflective of the broader needs of the community.
So, depending on what happens tonight, there'll be a budget that will go out, and you'll have the opportunity to put a submission in along the lines of your question as well, to try to get priority on your issues. Okay.
In context, just as a response to Jackie, sorry. So it's a budget issue that we haven't allocated funds to the area?
Yes. Yes. All right. So thank you for your question. Charles Chaz Street, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Firstly, my sincere thanks to Council excuse me, for approving a four-part motion against waste incineration in the City of Greater Geelong on the 28th of January. I wonder if Council could provide an update on progress and developments relating to that resolution, please, including correspondence with the State Government.
Yes, just if you can run to the next one, then we'll respond.
I note with great interest the publication of a new policy from the Commonwealth Department of Climate Change, Energy, Environment and Water, titled Australia's Circular Economy Framework. This framework makes no mention of incineration as a waste management option. In developing a strategic policy report for Council in relation to waste to energy in Geelong Municipality, will Council now align its waste management policy with the new DCC EEW Australia's Circular Economy Framework, please?
Thank you for your question. If I can invite the Executive Director for Placemaking, Jackie Randall, to comment. Or, James Sturton, sorry.
To your first question, on February 6, Mayor Contel wrote to Minister Kilgore voicing Council's strong opposition, that's a bit louder, isn't it? Voiced strong opposition to the proposed Lara waste to energy incinerator and calling for local decision making on projects like this. The Mayor asked the Minister to give Council authority over future waste to energy proposals. The letter was also shared with local MPs and community groups. The Minister responded on March the 7th, acknowledging Council's concerns. The State advised they will retain control over energy projects to ensure consistency and meet emissions targets. Council will continue to advocate for the community in ongoing discussions with the State Government on this matter. And in response to your second question, the City supports the Australian Government's 2024 Circular Economy Framework, developed by the Department of Climate Change, Energy and the Environment and Water. The principles in the framework are already aligned with our Waste and Resource Recovery Strategy 2020 to 2030, which focuses on three goals: avoiding waste, recovering more resources and protecting the environment.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. James Armitage. James Armitage. No. James McGill. James McGill. Wilma Cameron. Jennifer Banto.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm wearing my Wilma Cameron hat as a proxy for Wilma, who submitted 2 questions and is unable to attend. So will I proceed with that question?
I've got you down here, Jennifer.
Yes,
right.
thank you. So for these 2 questions, my name's Wilma Cameron, and I live at 243 Yarra Street in a lovely Victorian cottage which has heritage listing. As a graduate of history, I'm passionate about conservation of heritage as it supplies the character of a town or city. Its heritage is its essence. We, my husband and I, that is Wilma and Charles, moved to South Geelong, charmed by the history contained within its streetscapes. South Geelong not only has the oldest historical story of early settlement to tell, but it does so through many social layers, from factory workers to early business, from poverty to wealth. The journey takes us through a developing egalitarian city. We need to retain its essence, not replace it with an indifferent, soulless metropolis. I've followed and studied all the proposals for the development of this area. This is relating to the Amendment C432, the South Geelong Urban Design Framework Plan. I've followed and studied all the proposals for development in this area. I'm not against improving in different spaces. I noticed that a cultural asset, the building containing a Pivotonian theatre, has not been included in the heritage overlay. This theatre has a long history and is a huge asset to the area, with people coming distances to experience its charm and the cultural experiences that it provides. The building is a charming example of attractive yet sturdy commercial Victorian architecture and should be preserved. Why is it not on the plans? Question 2, is it possible, please, to include this historically and currently socially important building under the heritage overlay? With its closeness to all other activities planned for the area, it would potentially add to the value of the South Geelong area covered in the framework plan.
All right, thank you. Let's see if we can get some answer there. So, Executive Director Jackie Randall.
Thank you very much to Wilma for presenting the question, and thank you very much, Jennifer, for coming and acting as proxy. We truly appreciate you sharing Wilma's passion and your own passion for South Geelong's history and character. The Pivotonian is a valued part of the local arts scene, but it hasn't been included in the heritage overlay because its architectural features and its history don't meet the criteria for heritage protection. That said, we recognise it plays a special role for many in the community, and its future may continue to evolve as the area develops. The Pivotonian was assessed by heritage specialists as part of the urban design framework, and it wasn't found to meet the criteria for a heritage overlay at that time.
The response, Jennifer, on that one. So moving to your question as well now, or your 2 questions, if you could please.
Yes, that's right. So it's re-agenda item 2.11, Amendment C432, South Geelong Urban Design Framework. As a resident and ratepayer in South Geelong, I've been involved in this amendment process for several years. I was a party to the planning hearing on the 12th of November last year. South Geelong is an area of high historical significance. In Geelong's early settlement, there were 2 townships, one on Corio Bay and one in South Geelong around the Moorabool Street crossing of the Bowen River. My property is among those proposed for heritage overlay, and I support this process. When considering which places should be protected by heritage overlay, a magnificent building has been overlooked. This is a magnificent building and I am sure it meets the criteria. It's just been missed. At 4 Verner Street, now occupied by the cinema, there's a large, intact, 2-storey gabled roofed building. It's massive. The brickwork is of an interesting bonding. It's in excellent condition. This place has been a bakery for many years. Originally, its address was the western frontage, which faced Mirabel Street, and it was known as the Bowen Bakery. I've found Charles Pratt photographs from 1927 and 1937. So far, I've traced the proprietors from the 1870s. Actually, I recently found a Mr. Donovan in the 1850s. So it's Thomas and Jane Anderson, George Moody, George Little, and in 1922, Mr. Albert Keogh Cherry advertised that he sold Vienna bread rolls and that raisin, wholemeal and white breads were a speciality. Could Council please consider undertaking research into this building and evaluating its significance and protect it with an individual heritage overlay? I'd like to offer to undertake this research myself. I'm a former staff member of the Australian Centre for Australian Studies at Deakin. I'd like to volunteer to continue this research because it's a fascinating story. And the building, I think, was missed. The primary document that this study was based on was from 1991, the Graham Butler study, which is out of date. It should have been new research, and this might have been picked up, this building. So that's my question.
Would you like to answer that one, Jackie, at this point, or do you want to hear the second question as well?
If you had the second question, I can respond to both of them afterwards.
Jennifer, maybe if you ask the second question as well, and then we'll answer both.
Okay,
Yeah?
thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Right, question 2 is about the imported portable buildings in the 1850s World Heritage Listing proposal. In 2021, a task force for UNESCO World Heritage Listing of 19th century portable buildings imported into Australia because of the shortage of housing after the gold rush, a task force was formed to progress this process. Geelong has the highest number of any place in Australia of examples of the identified portable buildings nomination list. Very significant, Corio Villa being the outstanding example, of course, a portable building, Corio Villa. Dr. Miles Lewis, former Professor of Architecture, Melbourne University, was Speaker at the most recent City of Greater Geelong Heritage Advisory Committee held Monday 31st of March. From a report of that meeting, I'm told the participants supported the nomination. I'm a member of the task force to help contact owners of Geelong places for this group led by Dr. Miles Lewis. Now, the task force is seeking state and local government support for this nomination to UNESCO. This is not a request for any funding. We're not asking for any money at all from Geelong's budget. There's soon to be a launch by Dr. Barry Jones of the Coalition of Councils, and there's already several who have agreed. It'd be terrific if Geelong could resolve in a formal way that they support this nomination, and then they could be involved in this launch by Barry Jones, which is at the end of this month, so we have to hurry up. The launch is at the National Trust Portable Houses in South Melbourne.
Thank you for that. We'll get Executive Director Jackie Randall to also make some comments there for you.
Thank you very much for your questions. An incredibly interesting area as well. In response to question 1, so we appreciate you showing the detailed history of the site at 4 Verner Street. The building was assessed as part of 3 heritage reviews undertaken for the urban design framework, and it wasn't identified as meeting the threshold for heritage protection. While no further research is currently planned, your contribution has been noted and can help inform future reviews if new information or community interest emerges. With regards to a response for question 2, this matter was discussed at the Geelong Heritage Advisory Committee meeting Monday 31st, 2025, where Professor Miles Lewis gave the presentation that you refer to. The committee expressed support for the nomination and recommended that Council consider endorsing it. The recommendation for a formal resolution is now under consideration by officers.
Story?
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Jennifer, for coming along tonight to ask that question. As Chair of the Geelong Heritage Advisory Committee, I was at that meeting, and I think there was strong support for this request, and I would like to formally state here that I support it very much and would like to help the officers move forward with that resolution. I think it's something in Geelong's interest as a city that reflects and respects its heritage, and this is quite a unique example of history that Geelong can be proud of. So thank you, Jennifer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's all very positive. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. They were really interesting questions. Lex Chalmers, if Lex is in the room. Evening.
Good evening and thank you. On behalf of the Geelong National Trust Branch, I have 2 questions. Question 1, Howard Hitchcock, CMG OBE, was a tireless worker and philanthropist for Geelong, its people and its region. Mayor of Geelong from 1917 to 1922, its member of the Legislative Council 1922 to 32, he was chairman of the Great Ocean Road Committee 1918 to 1932. Well, I think he might have died of overwork in 1932. In 1923, grateful Geelong citizens, it's not really a memorial gateway, it was to thank him for his period as mayor. They ran a competition to design a tribute to him, raising money to build it. And the Geelong-trained architect at the Gordon, Keith McKay, won, designing an official portal to the Civic Centre, a handsome addition to Geelong's civic structures, reported in the Advertiser in September 1925 at the opening. A Monuments Australia website photograph shows a sound Hitchcock gateway, as does the Lovell Chen Conservation Management Plan. But today the eastern structure is seriously cracked. I was there yesterday and I'm afraid the western structure is also showing signs of movement and cracking. I raised this with Councillor Aitken on Anzac Day 2022. He referred it to the maintenance team. Cracking is now worse. Clearly, Council's Public Art Policy 2012 to 22, Outcome 6, preserving, maintaining and conserving, Action 612, undertake an annual program which establishes the condition and maintenance requirements of all public artworks on the asset register has lapsed since 2017. Is it possible that earthworks and or tree removals to install a rain garden in Johnson Park, a 2017 to 18 Revitalising Central Geelong project, has interfered with the hydrology and stability of the embankment on the Mercer Street side of the park near the gateway? If so, the government contributed $1.7 million to this project and ran it, and Geelong $150,000. Should the government help to pay for its remediation?
Would you like to make a comment there?
I can
Jackie?
answer that question, being a very long question. It's good to get the answer now. So thank you very much for your question, Lex. We can't stipulate the complete cause of the deterioration of the Hitchcock gates. The 2024 report found the structure in critical condition, with 90% repairable and 10% needing reconstruction. Foundation issues and soil movement are contributing factors. The Council is pleased to advise that we are looking to complete the restoration of the Hitchcock gates this year.
So question 2 then, Lex.
2 is about the same thing, and it was a question to ask you to consider catching up on the maintenance expenditure in the 2025 budget for the Hitchcock Gates, and I gather that has been arranged for. Thank you very much.
Did you have anything to add, Jackie, to that?
We'll just read out our answer because we have had a number of people that have looked at this. And the current financial year budget includes funding for outdoor art and heritage, covering arts, artefacts and monuments. This supports a multi-year renewal plan, annual maintenance and care for veterans' monuments with ongoing works across the city's outdoor collections. The city is reviewing options to address funding gaps and ensure the long-term perspective of key sites. Thank you.
Great, thank you for those questions. So that completes our questions. We now move to petitions, and I'll invite Dana Joseph to speak on behalf of residents tabling a petition regarding removal of trees in Baybrook Avenue, Creekside Drive, Curlewis. Is that correct?
Good evening, Mayor and councillors. My name's Dana. I'm one of the original residents of Baybrook Avenue, Curlewis. And tonight I do speak on behalf of the residents of our street, re the presence of the large gum trees along our nature strips. So according to council records, these are, hope I get this right, Wollongurra white gums, originally approved for planting with an expected maturity size of 12 metres high and 8 metres wide. We did provide some photos, so hopefully you've been able to see those, and you will be able to see that those trees do far exceed those projections. So many are now approaching 20 metres in height and 12 metres in width, which is considerably larger than what was approved. Unsure, but we believe, may be a result of an oversight or a misjudgment at the planning or the planting stage. These trees, they're not planted in any other parts of Curlewis, which sort of raises a question for us, why only Baybrook Avenue, which is one of the original streets in that subdivision. So tonight, as you review those photos, we urge you to take note of the sheer size of those trees. They do loom above the rooftops, they extend over boundaries, and they dominate our streetscape. So more than just visual clutter, they're now presenting a real and growing threat to the safety, amenity, and the infrastructure of our neighbourhood. So let me be clear, we do respect the value of native trees and their role in biodiversity, but these particular trees in this specific setting are simply not appropriate. Arborists have advised that large gum trees should be planted at a distance of at least 2/3 their mature height from any nearby structures, and in our case, these trees, they're planted far closer than that, and we believe they're not yet fully mature. Some of the issues that we're facing are roots encroaching onto private properties. Residents have witnessed nature strips lifting from the roots in strong winds, leaves, debris regularly clogging gutters, downpipes, causing water damage and requiring frequent, often risky maintenance by residents. Tree matter has been found inside vehicle engine bays, posing a serious fire risk. Fallen leaves and bark they do create a slip hazard on our footpaths and driveways. Worryingly is the size of the height of falling limbs, which puts both people and property at risk. Concern about the long-term damage to roads, footpaths and underground services. One property owner has reported severe blockage in their stormwater, which did require significant intervention by Barwon Water. And we do notice that the trees haven't been tagged by an arborist. So in summary, we the residents feel that there's possibly 4 options, which would be sort of continue to trim the trees annually, which has an ongoing cost, reduce the height of the trees, which weakens them and leaves the other issues that I mentioned unresolved, leave them untouched at the risk of worsening damage and community dissatisfaction, or remove and replace them with suitable plantings, in line with the rest of the estate, which will provide a safe long-term solution that benefits both the residents and council. So in conclusion, on behalf of the residents of Baybrook Avenue, we respectfully ask the council to consider the removal of these trees and the selection of a more suitable species for our residential streetscapes. We're not opposed to trees, far from it. We simply believe that these are not the right trees for that space. And we appreciate your time and look forward to finding a collaborative solution that benefits both the residents and the City of Greater Geelong.
Dana, who's tabling that? Councillor Story? So, Wilkinson?
Thank you.
Over a
It's not in our
house.
street.
Is that actually in your neighbourhood,
That
this
is-
photograph?
No, it's not. So
Oh.
we're just representing, we don't want that to happen in our street.
Okay, right, thank you. Yep.
Question. All right, so that's considered that's been tabled. Thank you. Right, so we now move to reports. The first one is the Youth Council's first report for 2025. So have a mover, Councillor Aiken. And moving the youth report, are you?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
And seconder, Councillor Burson, I believe. Yes, that's right. So we'll invite up the youth mayor, Mayor Singh, please, if you could come up and address the council with your first report.
We, the Youth Council, acknowledge the Wadawurrung people as the traditional owners of the land where we all live, learn, work and dream. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and to all emerging leaders. We walk alongside the Wadawurrung and all First Nations people to build an inclusive and respectful Geelong and to care for country so it can thrive. We honour their deep spiritual connection to country, plants and animals. Where the soil beneath our feet, the water in our streams, and the sun rising in the sky carry stories passed down through the generations. We extend our acknowledgement to all First Nations people who are part of Greater Geelong community today. Good evening, Mayor Kuntell, councillors, CEO, executive directors, fellow Youth Council representatives, and community members. I am here today to present the first Youth Council report of 2025. This report begins by introducing the 2025 Youth Council members, showcasing each of our individual goals, experiences, and values. Our new team consists of 11 members aged between 14 and 18, who come from various areas across Greater Geelong, and will collectively represent the voices of all the region's youth. Our journey started in January with a 3-day induction program designed to help us build strong connections, develop our group charter, and define our priorities for the year. We engaged in team-building activities, learned about our responsibilities as Youth Council members, and heard from various business units within the City of Greater Geelong. We also had the privilege of hearing from the 2024 Junior Mayor, Timu, who shared valuable insights from her time in the role. Personally, I found the induction an incredibly rewarding experience. Getting to know my fellow Youth Council members was a highlight, and I'm excited to see what we can accomplish together for young people in our community. On the 20th of January, we were officially inducted as the 2025 Youth Council Advisory Committee, and elections were held for the positions of the Junior Mayor and Deputy Junior Mayor. 10 members self-nominated for the position, and I can confidently say that every one of us delivered wonderful speeches, highlighting the experience and skills we believe made us the best candidate. I am honoured to have been elected as the Junior Mayor, alongside Alana Forbes as the Junior Deputy Mayor. Just a few days later, we attended our first major event, the opening of the Nest Youth Hub in central Geelong. I had the privilege of speaking at the event alongside the 2024 Junior Mayor, celebrating the dedication and perseverance of previous Youth Council members in bringing this project to life. This event was an incredible opportunity to connect with past Youth Council members, local young people, and key stakeholders, while exploring the Hub's exciting new space and activities. In February, we held our first official Youth Council meeting of the year. We heard a presentation from Leon's Architecture, where he provided insight on the design features and plans for the Barwon Women's and Children's Hospital. Additionally, we reviewed the 2024 Youth Council's Acknowledgement of Country and discussed potential changes. I'm incredibly proud to have read our group's agreed-upon Acknowledgement of Country at the start of this speech. We also created our group charter and identified our 2025 priority areas. These are advance health and well-being initiatives for young people with a focus on discrimination, violence, and substance abuse. Progress initiatives to alleviate cost of living pressures, recognizing its impact on young people. Promote local sustainability initiatives and drive climate action. Enhance the safety and livability across the city of Greater Geelong. In March, several of us attended the Women in Community Life Awards, an inspiring event that honored individuals making outstanding contributions to our community. 2 Youth Council members presented as panelists, courageously sharing their perspectives on gender equality as part of this year's theme, March Forward. Another 2, myself included, had the privilege of presenting awards to the recipients. It truly was an enjoyable and eye-opening event. The Youth Council are looking forward to the year ahead and can't wait to provide further insight as a voice for the youth of Greater Geelong. Thank you.
Councillor Aiken, did you have anything to say?
Thank you very much. Thank you, very much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Junior Mayor, as well too. It's an absolute pleasure every single year for us as councillors to actually see the representatives of our youth, who ultimately will be the future leaders of Geelong. They set a standard that all elected officials at local government, state government, and federal government levels should all be encouraged to hear by. What I do want to say is we actually have to remember that these people are between the ages of 12 and 18, which is amazing to think about it. And then when we had our first workshop together, it was actually quite confronting for the current council group, because you know what they were talking about? They were talking about substance abuse. They were talking about cost of living pressures. They were talking about housing affordability. And we were sitting there going, my gosh, what happened to actually just being a young kid and living in the world and actually just enjoying and actually not having the burden of that responsibility put on you? And it's actually an indictment of our society today that 12 to 18-year-olds are getting those responsibilities placed on themselves. And what's really good is the young people in Geelong are recognising that and actually challenging us as leaders and policy makers and decision makers to actually say, how about you take some of that burden off us and actually take some responsibility? And I look forward to the reports that are brought forward by the 2025 Youth Council Group, and I congratulate them for the leadership they're already showing now for the Geelong community, and I look forward to them in the future being leaders in Geelong, because we deserve them in Geelong, because they will make a genuine change in our community. So thank you. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, I'd just like to say thanks very much for the open and transparent conversations that we were having at the time. A lot of the time there was like substance abuse. I thought we were talking heroin and stuff like that, but a lot of it was more vaping and things like that. So that was interesting to see. However, there were some members that live in different areas that were obviously subjected to those sorts of things. And being a police officer, I often see an ex-officer, sorry, you'd see the other end of it. You don't see the way it affects the children and the schoolgoers and that sort of thing. So it's very good to see that. The other thing is, like as Councillor Aiken was saying, is the burdens that you guys take on board, and just the difference in when I was growing up with no social media to where you guys are. Whereas I was oblivious to all of that, my parents would have just worn it. Whereas now there's no filter between what's going on in the world and how much an algorithm can actually steer where you guys get your information from, and being able to actually speak directly to you guys is great for question and answer time to see where you're at, where your beliefs are, where we need to do better, how we can help you. And obviously, kids don't just come up and talk to the council a lot of the time, so it's good to have some sort of input that way. So thanks very much for your time when you come out, when you could be doing other stuff.
Any other councillor wish to make comment? Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Mayor Mr Singh, and the rest of the council group for that beautiful acknowledgement to country. Already you have made your mark, and I thank you. It's been a delight getting to know you as part of the youth mentoring program, and it's a really valuable experience and affirms the reason why I became a councillor to begin with. So I thank you, and a big shout out to Bella and Lacey for their contribution to the panel at the Women in Community Life Awards. They spoke, they gave such valuable and inspiring insight and reminded us all about challenging casual discrimination that occurs and continuing to reinforce really challenging that inequity and that sort of underlies gender-based violence. So I thank you. That was very brave and very honest for them to be part of that. So I look forward to working with you in the future.
Any other councillor? If not, Councillor Aiken to close.
Only to once again say thank you on behalf of all the councillors to our 2025 cohort, and also those that have gone before them as well too. It has been an absolute joy and pleasure. Thank you.
So put that to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous. So thank you very much, Mayor Singh. Well done. Thanks. So we're moved then to next item, endorse for exhibition the proposed 25-26 to 28-29 budget. Councillor Kados, and seconder Councillor Nelson. So Councillor Kados.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And this is probably one of the most important documents that we move each year, whether you're in council or any other form of government, is the proposed budget, which is the draft budget at the moment. So we've obviously put out for consultation and then come back to us towards the end of June to vote on. Under this budget, we're going in at a 2.5% rate rise, which would be probably the cheapest rate rise in the state, the cap being at 3%, so we've gone in 0.5% under the rate cap. That's a saving of over $1 million to the local community. The revenue coming in is almost 726 million, and I put this into context of the last time I did this in 2010, we were 310 million at the time. So you can see in 15 years we've more than doubled the revenue that's coming in, but the city has grown as well. One of the highlights also, the capital works budget. This year, 25-26 year of 210.9 million and 764 million over the next 4 years forward estimates. And this year we're seeing almost 69 million on buildings, 42 million on roads, paths, curbs and channels, 23.5 on land acquisitions. We have a lot of growth areas. I know Councillor Sinclair has a lot of acquisitions in her ward, as do I, having Mount Dunedin. Also in Lara as well, land acquisitions there. 31.7 parks and open space and leisure, 8.7 in plant and equipment, 18.7 in waste management, and another 17 spread across all other types of capital expenditure. One that I've been very pleased at a local level to get into the budget is the Winters Reserve. There's apparently a current existing project there to put the netball courts and then to fix up the netball change rooms and modify them and bring them into the 21st century. That was a bit short on funding, so I was happy to be able to get a little bit more money into the proposed draft budget for that. Otherwise, the scope would have had to have been cut back with escalating building costs, which is a problem that the council does face. Part of the budget is there's no new debt, and we're actually paying down $9.5 million worth of debt. So there's no new debt at all. And if we'd stayed in our present trajectory, the city by 28-29 year, we would have had $205 million worth of debt. At the same time, it'll be $142 million. So that's a significant improvement. We are selling, there are about $15 million worth of assets there for sale, and we've also identified more assets which I think can come to, which are excess to surplus to community needs. So I think that debt will get down even lower than that once we sell those assets as well. And that was part of, obviously, the monitors were very, thought that was very important that we reduce debt. We were at our limit this year, in 23-24, we were at 60%, which is the prudential borrowing limit. That'll drop down to just under 35% in 28-29, which is critically important. But one thing that I will say about this, it's the draft budget. There's a lot of fluidity in this budget. We've got a federal election. My tally so far is there's about $16 million worth of commitments across several projects. We might even get some more by the 3rd of May, you never know, from both sides. So that's money that's going to be savings in our budget, because we don't have to find $16 million, because the federal government, whoever that might be, will provide that. So there's a lot of fluidity, and also a topic of controversy, and I obviously won't preempt any decisions, has been aged care. So the budget as it stands has both aspects of aged care, both aspects of the decision, staying in or exiting. No decision has been made, and that will be for another meeting. But the budget reflects that. So whichever decision is made, there is going to be savings there from that perspective. And obviously the community, I want to go to the community, have your say on this. It's really important. If there's aspects, if you're a community group, if you're an individual, if you're a business, have your say on this budget. There'll be plenty of opportunity for you to do that. And I encourage the community to get out there and respond. And probably one last thing on the budget, you will see obviously the waste charge and at the moment it's the fire service levy. We don't know what it's going to be called. Just bear in mind that we've got a 30% increase coming on waste, and the emergency service levy is proposed at about 50%. So if those go up, it's not us doing it. That's the state government. But overall, look, the budget has opportunities to, I think there's certain aspects which we could change between now and June. Yeah, I'm happy to move that the draft budget be put out for exhibition.
Councillor Nelson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll reserve my right and speak at the end. Thanks.
Any other councillor wishing to speak?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I'd like to move a formal motion that the budget be deferred.
If the
No,
motion
I'm
is
actually
lost.
requesting a formal motion that it be deferred.
Have a seconder? Councillor Cadwell? Councillor Aiken?
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Look, I have been involved in 16 budgets as a local councillor, and this budget at this point of time, I feel the most ill-informed that I've ever been. I feel rushed as a councillor. The lateness at which the budget process has started didn't start until February of this year, and I acknowledge that we did have an election in October. However, all of those circumstances have meant that the current budget as it stands does not reflect my values as a councillor, and it doesn't, I believe, reflect the values of the community that I represent in the northern suburbs of Geelong. I'm asking that the budget be deferred for at least 7 business days until Friday the 2nd of May, so that the council group can actually have a look at the budget in more detail. I only received my budget papers on Thursday of last week. For a opportunity to look over it during the Easter period is not acceptable for the size of the budget and responsibility that an individual has as a councillor to make a decision. So therefore, I'm requesting that it be formally deferred until at least Friday, the 2nd of May, which is 7 business days from now, so I can actually be better informed as a councillor to have my questions that I have submitted properly answered, and also to have confidence the budget reflects my values as a councillor and the community that I represent in the northern suburbs.
Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm certainly in support of deferring the budget for release temporarily, as Councillor Aitken has said, for an extra 7 days until Friday the 2nd of May. Look, despite the best efforts of the officers in the preparation of this budget, and I acknowledge they've done an outstanding job, as they always do every year. This is the biggest thing that the council actually makes decisions on, and probably one of the biggest projects that council officers are involved in. But unfortunately, we did actually only get the paperwork late last week, so I just don't believe that we've had sufficient time to review it in order to make an informed decision about the documentation being ready for the release to the public. There are numerous questions by councillors that are still outstanding, and I'd feel far more confident in the budget if those questions were answered before it is released to the public. Essentially, we're elected by our community to make informed decisions on their behalf, and the decision about the budget is one of the most significant decisions that we will make, and I just don't feel equipped to make that informed decision about the budget at this time.
Councillor Cadwell, any other councillor wishing to speak on the motion for deferral? I put that motion to the vote. Those in favour of deferring the motion, the budget deliberation until the 2nd of May 2025? Against? That's been lost, so we can move back to the original motion. So any councillor wishing to speak to the
sorry, I do. I wish
motion?
to move some amendments to the draft budget, please, and I'll circulate those because we've got overhead issues that the people can't see it up there, so I'll pass that around to the councillors. I've got a written form.
How many amendments have you got, Councillor Aitken?
At this point of time, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 amendments, Mr Mayor, and I'd like to move the first of those amendments, please. Yeah.
Are you circulating these?
Yeah. The first amendment I would like to seek is that we really allocate Give Where You Live proposed $60,000 platinum sponsorship in 2025 to Active Geelong.
So what we'll do is we will deal with these separately.
Thank you. And that's in line with our governance rules as well too. We shouldn't actually group things together. I'm flagging my intent to put my amendments. I may not receive those amendments because a seconder may not be. So I've moved my first amendment. I'm seeking a seconder.
Just to the draft budget that
Correct.
we were proposing to send out to the community for comment.
We've a substantive motion on the floor at the present time to actually submit the draft budget out to public consultation, and I'm now actually moving some proposed amendments to that draft budget and hopefully seek councillors' support for that tonight.
The first one you've moved is
The first one I wish to move is to reallocate Give Where You Live proposed $60,000 platinum sponsorship in the 25-26 draft budget to Active Geelong.
Do I have a seconder? Sorry.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Look, I personally have contributed to Give Where You Live for a number of years through Workplace Giving, and it is a wonderful organisation. The reality is we have to make priorities as a councillor because we have limited funds available. There is a very good project that's been presented before the council group by the Active Geelong organisation, which is to establish strategic principles to actually improve the health and wellbeing of all Geelong people by actually becoming more active. For me, in making a priority, my preference is that funding actually goes towards a targeted program which directly will have impact on the community in Geelong, as opposed to a sponsorship to a fundraising-based organisation which is Give Where You Live. I'm seeking my councillors' support to actually support that targeted endeavour and response as well too. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to support Councillor Aitken's amendment here. I'm aware of the Active Geelong proposal that is targeted towards the northern suburbs of Geelong, where there's a distinct need for an improvement in health and wellbeing. The project is well considered. It has partners in appropriate university areas. It will provide information that will help us guide what we're going to come on to talk a bit later, our particular health and wellbeing strategy. So it aligns and is congruent with that strategy. I think that it's a relatively modest proposal to enable this group to continue their work and progress towards getting some results that could then be directed elsewhere within the City of Greater Geelong and improve the general health and wellbeing. But it's starting in an area that has particular low SES people and particular need. So I'd like to support the amendment. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Councillor Contel.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I can appreciate why Councillor Aitken is frustrated and disappointed in the process, and I'll talk to that later myself. But notwithstanding that, I cannot support any of these amendments, because the issue that we have is that we are already concerned that we didn't have enough time with reviewing the entire budget, and now to be making decisions on the run in the chamber when I've only just received these amendments, with all due respect. I think they've probably got merit, and obviously Councillor Aitken suggests they do, but I just don't have enough information on these. I'll have further to say about the budget when we get to that point, but I'm just foreshadowing now that I can't support the first one and I can't support any of them, given that I've had no information on them up to this point.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Not, I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Against?
Call a division, please, Mr Mayor.
Those in favour? Councillor Aitken, Councillor Story. Those against? Councillor Cadwell, Councillor Burson, Councillor Kados, Councillor Eddie Contel, Mayor Stretch Contel, Councillor Wilkinson, Councillor Sinclair. Not two?
He has a conflict of interest.
Right, okay. So we'll just wait for the Deputy Mayor to join us. He apparently has declared a conflict in regards to that first item.
I wish to move a second amendment, Mr Mayor.
You just wait for Councillor
Okay.
Nelson to join us. So Nelson, so Councillor Aitken, you were saying?
We'd like to move an amendment to the draft budget that we reallocate the proposed Geelong Heritage Grants for 25-26 for $100,000 to start the Hitchcock Gates restoration during 25-26.
Can I have a seconder to that motion? Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you. I'm in support of this. We've heard from Lex Chalmers tonight asking questions about that, and we've been given some guarantees. Mayor, Councillor Aiken has just reminded me that the correct process is that he should be asked to speak first.
Councillor Aiken, I thought it was obvious what you said.
No, thank you. I moved the amendment and Councillor
I know, I understood what you
Cadwell
moved,
seconded it. So look, this particular request is actually in response to the significant lobbying we've received associated with the Hitchcock Gates. The proposal in the current draft budget has no funding to actually commence restoration of this significant piece of heritage that exists on Johnson's Park. If it was daytime, you could actually just quickly look outside and see that one of the gates areas are fenced off. This is directly trying to provide a response and also direction to the council group to actually commence the restoration of that significant piece of heritage. It will be celebrating 100 years, as we've been identified to the council group, and this is a clear direction from the council that we do wish to protect our heritage, and here's an opportunity without impacting on other asset renewal programs that the council has, because we're identifying a budget allocation area.
Well,
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think Councillor Aiken has summarised that fairly well.
anyone else wishing to speak on this particular item? If not, I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Lost?
Division, Mr Mayor.
So those in favour? Councillor Aitken, Councillor Cadwell. Those against? Councillor Burson, Councillor Kados, Councillor Eddie-Contel, Mayor Stretch-Contel, Councillor Nelson, Councillor Wilkinson, Councillor Sinclair and Councillor Story.
Look, thank you very much, Mr Mayor. So the next amendment I'd like to make is that the Community Infrastructure Grant Fund be restored to $2 million and have the following allocations of $1 million to major capital grants and $1 million to minor capital grants.
Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Cadwell. I just say that I do indulge on this one because this one is a material alteration to the budget that I could, on a point of order, suggest that...
An opportunity to vote for it, Mr Mayor.
Yeah, I understand, but I'm also giving you an indulgence to let you speak on it because it is a material change that we have not discussed. So, Councillor Aitken.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Look, at the present time, we have $3 million available for community capital grants. The current draft budget actually reduces that down to $1.5 million. So it actually halves the amount of capital grant applications that can be put forward to the whole of the community of Geelong. I don't support that as a councillor because a significant number of projects will actually not be able to be undertaken in the community. We established a competitive grant program so that the best projects each year were actually funded, and by reducing it down to $1.5 million, we essentially will not be able to deliver what the community has asked of us, and it shows our priorities again that we are not focusing on what the community need or community wants, or even giving them the capacity to be able to put in a competitive application under our grants program. We have, as the Mayor's indicated, we have had some discussions about this leading up to the draft budget. However, the draft budget does not reflect those discussions that we've had. And as a consequence, I'm trying to propose tonight that the draft budget do reflect the discussions that the council group is in relation to this particular issue. It's not ill-informed. The reason why I'm actually putting these amendments, because I actually asked for it to be deferred so we could have discussions amongst the council group. So I actually did request, and that was rejected by the councillors. So now I'm put in the position of having to put up these amendments so that the budget can try to better reflect my values as a councillor.
Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think, again, Councillor Aitken has summarised that fairly well. The only thing I would add is just to stress that our community groups and sporting associations rely on the opportunity to apply for these grants to fund important priority projects, and I'm not in favour of any cuts to budget that denies them that opportunity. Thank you.
Any other councillor wishing to speak? Now I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? It's lost.
Vision, Mr Mayor.
So those in favour? Councillor Aitken, Councillor Cadwell. Those against? Councillor Burson, Councillor Kados, Councillor Eddie-Contel, Councillor Mayor Stretch-Contel, Councillor Nelson, Councillor Wilkinson, Councillor Sinclair, Councillor Story. Any other matters?
Next
Councillor
one, Mr Mayor, if that's okay. I'd like to propose an amendment that we freeze the marketing and communication services expenditure budget at the 24-25 forecast level of $4.229 million.
Anyone willing to second that? Well,
I'm happy to second for the purpose of debate.
Aiken?
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Look, we've been advised that it's an extremely tight budget and that there is limited waste and there is limited resources to be able to put out into items in the community. If you look on page 30 of the proposed draft budget, it actually says that the 24-25 forecast expenditure in marketing and communications for the City of Greater Geelong will be $4.2 million. And the proposed draft budget puts forward that $6.2 million will be expended under the draft budget. That's actually a $2 million increase in the actual financial figures associated with FY25. That's a 47.6% increase in marketing and communication spend at the City of Greater Geelong. I actually believe it should be frozen at this year's financial amount, and that's actually a $2 million saving that found in the FY26 draft budget, which is really important because what the current budget is actually showing a deficit of $3.86 million. So we're actually proposing to the community tonight that we are putting forward a deficit budget. I have always believed that you should live within your own means.
Point of order, could you address the councillors, please? You're projecting that I'm not picking up what you're saying.
If it's this you're hearing and your support to my recommendations, Mr
Mayor,
Mayor,
what you're saying.
Very pleased to do that. And what we have a responsibility to do with our community is to make sure that we prioritise our expenditure in the City of Greater Geelong and to put forward a $2 million, 47.6% increase in the communication and marketing spend of the city actually gives the community a clear indication about the priorities of this council, and it certainly doesn't reflect the values that I have as a councillor and as a person representing the northern suburbs of Geelong.
Councillor Cadwell?
Thank you.
I won't say anything further on that, Councillor Aiken, but I'll put it to the vote. Anyone else wishing to speak? I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Against? Lost?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The next amendment I'd like to put forward. Division, sorry, Mr Mayor. Yeah.
So those in favour? Councillor Aiken, Councillor Cadwell. Those against? Councillor Burson, Councillor Kados, Councillor Eddie Contel, Mayor Stretch-Contel, Councillor Nelson, Councillor Wilkinson, Councillor Sinclair and Councillor Story.
Next amendment, Mr Mayor, is to provide business case and return on investment analysis reports to Council before the adoption of the 25-26 budget in the following proposed expenditure areas. Information technology, $31.4 million. Waste management 4-year capital spend, $65.5 million. Wiki Nyao fit-out costs, $1.728 million.
So these are all in or all out, right? They're all in, all out. You're moving them as a block. As a block.
I'm actually not asking to be taken out of the budget at this point in time, Mr Mayor. My amendment actually asks that councillors be provided with a business case
for each of those three.
And a return on investment analysis report before the adoption of the 25-26 budget.
All right, just to be clear.
Yeah.
So, Councillor, anyone willing to second that? Councillor Cadwell? Councillor Aiken?
Mr Mayor, we have an immense responsibility as councillors whenever we make decisions about allocation of significant financial commitments to the council. The best example I have of that is actually just across the road. The council has spent over $120 million into building a speculative property development. And that speculative development...
if you could just speak to the group here, please.
That speculative property development has actually caused the train wreck of the financial position that the City of Greater Geelong is in. We have too much borrowing.
Councillor
We have
Aiken,
too much.
This is not a free for all and filibuster.
We have too much.
Stick to what you've said. Otherwise, I will call you on a point of order.
And what my point, Mr. Mayor, is that council actually have to scrutinise every single dollar that we have a responsibility for. And unless we do, we can fall into the trap that we have for Wiki-NIR. The reality is Wiki-NIR has not met any of its leasing requirements. It's met none of its financial requirements in terms of return of investment to the council group. It has actually caused us...
It's not for the debate. It's not for the debate. You've made your point. You want business analysis.
So that's right, Mr. Mayor. If you let me finish, what my point is that we have waste management capital expenditure of $65.5 million, and at this point in time, the councillors have not been given a business case or a return on investment analysis for that expenditure. That's a significant amount of money. We've not been given a business case or a return on investment for the IT management spend of $31.4 million. In this year's budget, the current spend is $18 million, so it's actually a $13 million increase in that spend. And the final one, we continue to shift funds away from community activities. Wiki-NIR has a fit-out cost of $1.7 million in this year's budget. That's on top of the additional money we've already allocated to that particular facility across the road. And we should be asking for the business case and the return on investment for that additional $1.7 million that's been put into Wiki-NIR.
You are responsible for your comments, okay? I just warn you on that. You are responsible for your comments. It's in the public realm, and matters of confidential information, you're responsible for disclosing. It's on your back, okay? So just be careful. I'm just giving you a warning for your own safety, okay? So Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Look, I think it seems very reasonable to have business cases provided for these three items, given the significant dollars involved, so I'm supportive.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Councillor Sinclair. Thank you, Councillor Sinclair. Anyone else wishing to speak? If not, I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? Councillor Aitken, Councillor Cadwell. Those against? Councillor Burson, Councillor Kados, Councillor Eddie Contell, Mayor Stretch-Contell, Councillor Nelson, Councillor Wilkinson, Councillor Sinclair, Councillor Story.
Thank you.
Right, so that they've been lost.
Sorry, I apologise. Yes, I will have a division, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, all right. So those in favour? Councillor Aitken, Councillor Cadwell. Against? I thought I did a division. Councillor Burson, Councillor Kados, Councillor Eddie Contell, Mayor Stretch-Contell, Councillor Nelson, Councillor Wilkinson, Councillor Sinclair and Councillor Story. So all those proposed amendments have been lost.
I've got one more, Mr. Mayor, if that's okay. I've got another amendment. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to request that the CEO review the targeted performance indicators with an intent of changing to create them as aspirational, accountable performance measures, which reflects Council's ambitions to be a high-performing organisation and include new targets for adoption and consideration in the final 25-26 budget.
Seems to me that it's not even comprehensible what you're asking. It's not clear to me what you'd be asking the CEO to do.
Would you like me to be able to speak to the motion and then it may give some clarity?
I can't put a motion that makes no sense. Unclear to me, so I'm not sure what you'd be asking the CEO to do. How long is a piece of string, in other words?
Yeah, what I'm asking for is that we review Do you want me to explain it so it's not using up my
No,
time?
I just think it's
in the
to me,
proposed draft budget.
I can't accept a motion that's unclear, that's ambiguous.
Yeah, but I'm trying to.
To
So
make,
how do I find
impossibility.
wording that can be clear for you, Mr. Mayor?
It's not my job. You need to. I don't know what you're asking. Is what my point is.
What I'm asking for is, in our draft budget, we have targeted performance indicators.
Can you move? I'm not opening for debate.
And what I'm asking is they be reviewed.
But he's got to be specific. So the CEO needs to understand exactly what it is you're asking.
And that's why I'm asking them, can these targets, I'll be visual, can these targets in this document be reviewed with the intent of creating aspirational and accountable performance measures
no idea what you're pointing
which
to.
reflect Council's ambitions to be a highly performing organisation
Right,
and include new targets?
For the purpose of the debate, I'll put it because I don't know, I wouldn't have the faintest idea what you're talking about. It'll probably lapse on the balance that no one will understand.
I'll be specific then. I would like to move that the performance indicators for the following areas: roads, statutory planning, waste management, efficiency, loans and borrowings, be reviewed by the CEO with the intent of improving the aspirational and accountability of those. So in other words, they're actually increased, Mr. Mayor.
We'll leave it at
and
that.
And decreased.
Leave it at that. If it makes sense to you, it makes no sense to me. Is there a seconder? Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you. I'm seconding for the purpose of debate.
Councillor Aiken.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. If you look at page 61 of the draft budget document, we actually have our targeted performance indicators. And this is where the council is actually saying where we're going to focus our resources to improve the performance of council. And an example that I use is waste management. Waste management, in terms of the target for 25-26, is 49.84% of waste will actually not go into landfill. Now, if you look at the 26-27 target, if you look at the 27 and 28 target, and you look at the 28-29 target, guess what? Those targets are all the same, Mr. Mayor. There is no change in the aspiration of this council or this vision of this council to reduce waste going into landfill. There is no high performance attempt to actually adjust those targets because it's exactly the same target for the next 4 years as a council. And we're spending $65.4 million in capital to build new waste facilities. And we have no change in our strategic target associated with that area of responsibility. And what I'm asking is that for the CEO to review those targets, and every single one of them in this particular area of the draft budget, to actually reflect the aspirations that we have at council. Because there's no accountability for any of these. When you look at consultation and engagement, 54% for 25, 54% for 27, 54% for 28, 54% for 29. There's no aspirations to actually include and improve our community engagement. And that's all I'm asking, Mr. Mayor. This is a document that goes out to actually say what is our vision, what is our strategy as a council. And when you look at the targets that have been set, there is no aspiration. It's actually what we're doing now should be maintained for the next 4 years in every single one of our performance targets in the city of Greater Geelong. And it is so disappointing as a councillor that that is actually what we have put forward to the community. So, Mr. Mayor, my amendment is actually not a criticism of anybody. My amendment is to actually say, let's actually have a look at those and actually try to change them to reflect our budget and also change to reflect our aspiration and vision as a council.
Aiken, Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think Councillor Aiken's passion for these amendments is fairly clear, and I think he's been fairly articulate in the reason that he wants more precise measures. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Councillor Wilkinson.
Just on the point of waste management, as the Chair of Circular Economy, our initiatives in that space are incredibly aspirational. And there's incredible projects afoot in terms of plans. And I really think we need to be very mindful in speaking on specialised subject matter and then drawing a line to a number and then espousing what we plan to do or what we don't plan to do in that space in relation to the waste management strategy going forward. So, yeah, just on that point, I think it's far more complex than perhaps you've laid out here. Thank you.
Councillor Wilkinson, anyone else wishing to speak? If not, I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Councillor. Those against? It's lost.
Division, Mr Mayor.
So division. Those in favour? Councillor Aitken, Councillor Cadwell. Those against? Councillor Burson, Councillor Kados, Councillor Eddie Contell, Mayor Stretch Contell, Councillor Nelson, Councillor Wilkinson, Councillor Sinclair, Councillor Story.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to use my time to speak on the budget now that my amendments have been dealt with, if that's okay.
Right. So we're now back to the substantive motion.
Yeah. Look, I've tried my best tonight as a councillor to actually reflect my values as an individual and as a councillor, and also to reflect my commitments to the northern suburbs of the City of Greater Geelong. The current draft budget does not reflect my personal values, and an example of that is the current draft budget proposes a deficit. And I strongly believe that you should cut the cloth of your clothes to what you can afford. And to actually put forward a deficit when there are clearly items in that particular budget that could be cut or removed to actually ensure we make break even is a far better aspirational and visionary position to have as a council than to put forward a deficit budget. Deficit budget should only be put forward when you actually have a strategic objective or a major item of response, and that's exactly what this council did during the COVID period. It actually strategically said we wish to support our community and we entered into deficit. This particular budget enters into deficit and there is no benefits for the community except for possibly free parking, which not everyone's going to benefit from. There's expenditure in communication and marketing of an extra $2 million, which is not going to help the broader Geelong community. There's expenditure associated with other employment costs that are currently running at $1.8 million. In the proposed budget, there's over $6 million in other expenditure that's identified. All those items have not received the due diligence that they require. I cannot sit here tonight and accept a draft budget that puts a deficit into the community that seems to have gimmicks in it associated with, in terms of expenditure items. It does not reflect the priorities and values that I represent as a councillor or the community I represent. I encourage our other councillors to do that as well too. My preference was to have this discussion during those 7 days, business days, if we defer this particular budget. I wasn't given that opportunity. I then put forward amendments as well to try to put the budget into break-even and surplus position, which is a very, very honourable thing to do as an individual and as a councillor, but it has been rejected. And therefore, as a consequence, I cannot support the draft budget as it's been put out to the community tonight. And I encourage the community to go through every single line item of this proposed budget and identify waste and opportunities so that the council can promote a break-even and deficit budget, and also fund priorities that have a higher reflection of what the community desires and needs than what has been put forward in the draft budget tonight, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Aitken, any other councillor wishing to speak? Wilson?
Thank you. This is not a perfect budget. There's no doubt about it. Does it reflect all of my values? No, I think there are things. Do we all share exactly the same values? Perhaps not. It comes at a time of great uncertainty. We have competing priorities. There's impact of the housing crisis, the cost of living, and we are pre-federal election with a whole lot of promises of money to come in. I take Councillor Aitken's point in terms of addressing issues for our most vulnerable within our community, and do we do that? Should we do that? Yes, we should do that. And this budget really, yeah, it goes some way. Could it go further? But It's a draft budget. And what I'm more interested in is what you think. So I would like the community to engage with the budget. I would like some feedback. I would like to be able to hear whether, what the opinions are, far-reaching. And really that's the time. We've had 6 meetings, budget meetings, where we've talked and hashed out things, and no, we haven't had the information in a timely manner coming up to tonight, but we certainly have had a lot of information, and certainly a lot of specialist information around operational expenditure that's been discussed tonight. So I put forward this not perfect draft budget, and that's my case.
Councillor Wilkinson. Any other councillor wishing to make a comment?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. First of all, I do respect Councillor Aitken for putting forward his position. Whilst I wasn't able to support, I shouldn't say I wasn't able, whilst I decided not to support his amendments, it was only on the basis that I'd only received them, and I've got the same criticism about the budget, that I don't feel we've had enough time to work through it. So that aside, I've had to think long and hard about this budget, even up until the last 30 minutes or so. There's probably a number of reports in this agenda that I don't feel all that comfortable with in terms of having all the information or all the answers. And I've really been deliberating as to whether to support the budget even to go out to consultation. And I've never rejected a budget before. There's a couple of items that particularly concern me. One being Hamlet Park female-friendly change rooms, and the other being Queen's Park female-friendly change rooms. When we already had $1.7 million and $1.4 million respectively budgeted for both those projects in the current budget, and we're now suggesting that we won't actually build these facilities until 2026, 2027, I'm positive won't be something that those communities that are interested in those facilities will be happy about at all, and I'm certainly not happy about that, and we'll be fighting until we get to the final budget to ensure that those funds are put where they should be. There's also a whole range of fees and charges that I'm not comfortable with as I sit here today because I don't have enough information on them, and I'll be looking for feedback from the community on those. So with that said, I will support it tonight, only on the basis that it's going out to the community for consultation, but we've got a hell of a lot more work to do as a council before we panel beat this budget into shape to be adopted at the final meeting that we're obliged to do so.
Any other councillor wishing to make a comment? Councillor Burson.
I'd like to reiterate what Councillor Wilkinson was saying. I would rather the budget goes out today in a state that I'm not over the moon about and have another 300,000 people be able to look at it transparently and tell us what they think about it, because they will pick up a lot more than just 11 people looking at it. So it's a draft budget, have a look at it, verbalise your complaints, and we will do our best to try and fix it. We're not going to agree on everything. I'm sure that other people have priorities that they want to have met that aren't going to be met, but I don't think bringing it up now over individual topics to have a debate in front of everybody was the best way to do it, but that's how things happen. And I'd also like to say, James, I love what's going on with the waste management thing. The FOGO thing's amazing, and I'm looking forward to where we go with that. But thanks very much.
Councillor Burson, any other councillor wishing to make a comment? Councillor Sinclair.
And I think, as Councillor Wilkinson pointed out, no one's going to have a perfect budget for everyone because we've all got different values and we've all got different wants and needs. We've had very clear feedback that we need to reduce our debt cap, so we've all had to make sacrifices for this first year, and then hopefully as we build, we can create new opportunities as we move forward together as a council group. We talked a little bit about some of the values that have underpinned our decision making in this process, and I really want to talk to the value of collaboration and realism and working together to achieve an outcome that we can work on together. We all have to make sacrifices. I echo the idea of making sure that vulnerable people are looked after. That's a really clear priority of mine in any area of governance that we're looking at. And echo Councillor Aitken's comments around community, go out there, get out into the budget, look at every line item. This is yours to provide feedback on. You're the most important voices in this conversation. So please let us know what you think. Thank you.
Councillor Sinclair, any other councillor wishing to speak? Nelson, I think you reserved your right.
I did, Mr Mayor. I too have concerns around the budget process. I think the election of council slowed us down, certainly. We had 6 meetings. I think we usually have probably 10. Is it perfect? No, it's not. But it is what it is. I fought for a zero rate rise during the election campaign, but with issues such as aged care reforms forced on the council by the federal government and asset renewal, this was not possible. However, I think a 2.5% rise is the lowest in the state. I think that's something that we as a council group and council officers should be proud of. I will keep fighting for a zero rate rise to ease cost of living pressures, as we've heard tonight. The price of everything just seems to be going up and up and up, but we've actually reduced our rate, so I think that's a good thing. I'll also fight for budget surpluses in the future. I agree with Councillor Aitken that we should have budget surpluses. I think post-federal election our budget will look different. This budget is for the whole community, as we've heard from councillors to my right. I think no new debt is something significant in this part of the budget, and I thank officers for that. I think that shows real restraint on their behalf and for our community. An asset renewal at over $112 million. I think that's vital to maintaining our existing infrastructure. On a personal note, I believe Councillor Aitken has put forward some great recommendations, and I will work with him over the next few weeks to see, and the councillor group, to see if we can add those to the draft budget, because as we've all heard, it is a draft budget that we can work on for the next 6 weeks. Unlike any other form of government, we'll be asking for your feedback. So please have your say. This budget isn't just forced upon you like the other levels of government do. We want your feedback. So please have your say. Thanks.
Councillor Nelson. Anyone else hasn't spoken? Councillor Kados.
Just quickly to close. Thank you, Mayor. As Councillor Aitken rightly points out, there is a deficit, but one thing that Councillor Nelson said, we have asset renewal, and we've got to pay for that asset renewal, and we've got some of the highest asset renewal in the, probably, I'm not sure in the state, but we're getting close, because you don't want your facilities to be falling apart, whether it's sporting facilities, community facilities. That costs money to maintain those, and that's where part of that funding has come from. I'm happy to still, I respect Councillor Aitken's efforts tonight and where he's coming from and his passion, and I understand that, but there are opportunities also. We do have a deficit, but we are in a draft budget. There may be opportunities to reduce that deficit or even get us towards break even or a slight surplus. That will be something that we can do between now and the end of June, but also as regarding surpluses, if you look at the next 3 years, we are in surplus for the next 3 budgets. So hopefully we can try and improve that a bit this year. Yeah, we have a lot of work to do, but as I said, there's a lot of things that need fixing in the community, a lot of things that need maintenance, and it all costs money in the end.
Councillor Kados, I'll just say one thing in relation to a surplus, deficit or balanced budget. It's certainly my wish that we still end up with a balanced or surplus budget. As Councillor Kados mentioned, the aged care decision still needs to be made. Whether we stay in or we leave, it's going to cost this council a certain sum of millions, and both those outcomes are built into this budget, but only one ultimately will be the outcome, which means that this budget will, by necessity, change. and it could change significantly to the extent of leaving us in surplus. So whilst we at the moment are in draft and it's a deficit, we have that decision to make, and that'll be made before the final budget. And we also have the federal election, as Councillor Wilkinson mentioned. There have been all sorts of commitments made by both sides. Depending who wins will mean certain number of millions as well that have been committed to us by both sides of politics. So again, that'll be taken up in the final budget, which will make a significant difference. So it's important that we get get the budget out in its draft form, warts and all. People have 28 days to respond. Councillors will have ample opportunity over the next 28 days to go through every aspect of this budget, and we can have as many sessions together as people want, including weekends, knock ourselves out. And trust me, we will be, because that's obviously what I've heard councillors want to do. So you may get sick of looking at each other talking about budget, but that's what I've heard people want to do, and that's what we're going to do. And then we will take on board what the community has to say, and when we come back with the final budget, let's hope that we're all joined up. So with that, I put it to the vote. So those in favour of the resolution on table? Those against? It's carried. So we move then to the next item, which is the draft Community Health and Wellbeing Strategy 2025-2029. Mover, Councillor Story. Seconder, Councillor Cadwell. Councillor Story.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The recommendation before Council is at 2.3. The recommendation is that Council endorses the draft Community Health and Wellbeing Strategy 2025-2029 to be released for community consultation. Further, it notes the draft Community Health and Wellbeing Strategy will be published on Have Your Say for a 4-week feedback period, 23 April to 25 May, and notes that the final version of the Community Health and Wellbeing Strategy 2025-2029 will be presented for adoption at Council's July 2025 ordinary meeting. Mr Mayor, just if I could speak a bit to that, if that would be all right. This is a bit of a change, and I think it's a good change. Our current municipal public health and wellbeing plan sits within our community plan. From 2025, it will be a standalone strategy named the Community Health and Wellbeing Strategy. This will ensure that there is a long-term vision for overall health and wellbeing at the city. So giving it its own standalone status, I think, reflects the importance that we as a council and as the City of Greater Geelong gives to the health and wellbeing of our community. The draft strategy will align with the council plan and aims to meet the relevant legislative requirements, identify and tackle health disparities within the community, and provide a clear direction for the city's role in improving community health and wellbeing from 2025 to 2029. Further, it will create environments that support healthy living and identify opportunities for strategic partnership and collaboration. Mr Mayor, this draft has been informed by local data on the needs of the community, including the data-rich Geelong Preventative Health Survey, and I'd like to compliment the officers and all involved in producing not only the data from this, but the exceptionally readable and accessible format in which it's been produced. The strategy identifies 6 important health and wellbeing priorities. First, mental wellbeing and social inclusion, equitable access to safe, healthy and sustainable food, physical activity and active living, gender equity and prevention of violence, climate change and health impacts, and harm minimisation associated with tobacco, vaping, alcohol misuse and gambling. This strategy will be implemented through annual action plans and will be reviewed annually to track progress towards strategic objectives. An annual report will be prepared for councillors and the community, which provides an update on the progress of the annual action plan. An evaluation of this strategy will commence in 2028 to ensure our next strategy is informed by our learnings. If Council endorses the draft Community Health and Wellbeing Strategy to be released for community consultation, engagement, as I mentioned, will commence tomorrow until the 25th of May 2025. And the final version will be presented to Council at our July meeting. So, Mr Mayor, I would suggest and submit that Council approves this recommendation. Thank you.
Story, Councillor Cadwell.
I just want to make a couple of really minor points. Just that I note that we are prioritising community health and wellbeing, the community health and wellbeing strategy by making this a standalone document. And I also note the significant consultation with the community and the use of the data that my colleague Councillor Story has mentioned, the 2024 Geelong Preventative Health Survey. And I think Councillor Story's already mentioned this, but the engagement will commence from 23rd of April until the 25th of May, with the strategy coming back for adoption to Council's July 25 meeting.
Cadwell, any other councillor wishing to speak? If not, Councillor Story, over to you to sorry, Councillor Eddie Contell.
Comment. Whilst I'm in favour of the report going out to the community for consultation, I would like to try and understand a little better going forward the financial sustainability impacts of this. I understand that the report suggests that there's only a recurrent funding of $150,000 required, but the current budget that we have suggests that health and wellbeing is going from 16.2 million to 19 million. So I'd like to understand how the strategy has an impact on that.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Councillor Story to close.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Eddie Contell, for that question. I guess it'll depend a bit on what comments and questions and suggestions we get, and we'll do our best, which is what we try to do always, and that's all we ever can do, is do our best with what we've got. But thank you for your questions. I'll submit that to the Council for consideration, Mr Mayor.
All right. So put that to the vote. Those in favour? Against? It's unanimous. Thank you. So the next item is item 2.4, Draft Rainbow Action Plan. Council endorse the plan for community consultation for a 2-week period, 17 May to 31 May. Someone moved that. Councillor Sinclair, seconder. Councillor Story, Councillor Sinclair.
Thank you. I am really pleased to be able to move the draft Rainbow Action Plan to be put out to community for consideration tonight. I know that this is a long time coming for many of you that are here tonight. There's been a lot of community advocacy. Would particularly like to acknowledge Jan Farrell, former councillor who worked on the GASP program in 1996. So this is sort of where this work, the first iteration, came from. So more recently, in the 2024 February Council meeting, a petition was delivered that requested Council prepare a Rainbow Action Plan. Many organisations across the state and across the country have done this, and this was passed unanimously. This is the plan that has been pulled together is being drafted with the consultation of the community, and this is the next stage of consultation that we're taking out to seek the broader community's feedback. So this is really exciting. The community engagement that has been completed to date identified 4 key principles that the plan would like to undertake and advocate for. So understanding, inclusion, visibility, and safety of LGBTIQA+ people. So I think sometimes with plans like this that they're exclusive, they're about one group of people, but I've really found that it's nothing further from the truth. These are really inclusive plans that often benefit the entire community. These plans identify issues and barriers that people have accessing services or seeking support or engaging more broadly in their community and their neighbourhoods. And it's often a barrier that's not faced by just one person or one group. Many groups share these challenges. And so when you build a plan around a specific community group, you're often benefiting a whole heap of different groups as well. And you'll find with this plan it will work in cooperation with many of our other community plans that we have, our gender equity plan, our health and wellbeing plan. There's so many different ways that this works together, which means it's not just investment in activity for the administration of this plan. It can be shared across a whole range of portfolios. It also helps us meet legislative requirements. There's legal requirements under the Local Government Act and a whole lot of other anti-discrimination laws that we are required to adhere to, and plans like these help us do that. The other thing that I would add, we had a great opportunity to meet Jo Ball a few weeks ago, the LGBTIQA+ Commissioner for Victoria, and when they spoke to us about issues facing the community, they weren't issues about just being gay. They were issues around cost of living, access to healthcare, access to a whole range of services that don't, again, just to come back to my other point, don't just impact one group, they impact everybody in our community. So I'm really pleased to be putting this forward tonight to go to the community for consultation and give the entire community an opportunity to comment and to provide their feedback.
Councillor Sinclair, Councillor Story.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm pleased to second this motion. As my colleague has mentioned, the Rainbow Action Plan certainly is congruent with the draft Community Health and Wellbeing Strategy, particularly with mental wellbeing and social inclusion. I come at this topic from a perspective of somebody who believes that for citizens to flourish, all citizens should be treated with respect, their essential human dignity should be respected, and they should not be denied the full participation in community life. So it's a fairly simple proposition. Treat other people as you would like to be treated yourself. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Story. Yes, very good. Thank you. You made an impact, Councillor Story. Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you. I'm also very proud to be launching this out into the community for engagement and feedback. It is the kind of work, and I thank officers for the work they've done in this space, that truly actually saves lives. When in speaking with the Commissioner and reading some of the feedback and advice given as part of formulating the plan, we were told that not up until relatively recently, people felt that they needed to leave Geelong to feel safe. This work enables people to feel safe in their hearts, to be their true authentic selves in their hearts and in their minds, and be able to feel a part of our community, as you are a part of our community. We are one. And how do we know, perhaps, that people from the LGBTQIA+ community are at risk in terms of their health and mental health and wellbeing? Because we have asked. So we connect our health strategy, our preventative health strategy, with this Rainbow Action Plan. It all makes sense. There's a continuity here. So I thank you for the work that's been done in this space, and I look forward to the community having their say.
Councillor Wilkinson. Any other councillor? Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would also just like to say that it's great to see this report actually coming before Council, not only to meet the unanimous resolution that Council passed in May 2024, but to recognise the importance of this plan and the actions outlined in it for our LGBTIQA+ community, many of whom we can see are here in the gallery tonight, including, as Councillor Sinclair has mentioned, former Councillor Jan Farrell, and I'd also like to acknowledge the work of former Councillor Sarah Hathaway, who's not here tonight, but she was particularly an advocate for the work.
Thank you, Councillor Cadwell. Any other councillor wishing? Councillor Edie Contel and then Councillor Cadwell.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Similar to the budget and similar to the health and wellbeing report, I will support this to go out to the community for consultation and really encourage the community, as with the other two reports, to ask questions, because whilst the intent of the report is admirable and respectful, as other councillors have already suggested, there's lots of actions in here that many people won't understand, and I know that because there's councillors in this room that don't understand them, including myself. And we asked questions today and we still don't have answers for some of those, not because the officers haven't given them to us, because we didn't know what questions to ask before that. So it's important for the community to understand that this is the opportunity to read the report, try and ask the questions, but equally it's the responsibility of councillors to do the same. So I'm supportive of it going out to the community, and we'll certainly review it again once we get the feedback.
Councillor Eddie Contel. Councillor Kados.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So with regard to the consultation, it is quite short, only been 2 weeks, so 17th of May to the 31st. So I encourage everyone, whatever your views are, whether you're supportive, not supportive, want to see changes, like something, don't like something in the plan, please come forward and say your piece. I really encourage that, as the last thing I want to see is we go to vote on the plan down the track and we've got a gallery full of people yelling and screaming that why wasn't this included, and why didn't you do this and why didn't you do that? So I'd like that to, just as a gentleman tonight that asked a question around the Rainbow Action Plan. I encourage everyone to please do that. I personally like to see a slightly longer consultation period. It's only 2 weeks, so get in there and have your say.
Councillor Kados. Any other councillor wishing to speak? If not, back to you, Councillor Sinclair.
Thank you. And if you may indulge me in a personal reflection, and Councillor Wilkinson actually touched on this. So my best friend of over 20 years, so don't do the maths, and I met on a dance floor in Melbourne a long, long time ago. He grew up in Geelong, and we had a large group of gay friends that also grew up in Geelong who had left because they didn't feel safe here and they didn't feel comfortable here. They have struggled coming out. Some of them have returned to Geelong now because there has been a change and there has been a shift in our community, and we can see that in some of the venues that have opened. And I can see Jojo, the owner of Splatters, here tonight, is one of our favourite gay venues in the city. And yeah, it's really nice to see that change, and I don't want to see these people lost again, because these people, you know, they've gone on to become, you know, senior executives in banks. They've gone on to become incredibly senior nurses in Melbourne. So these are all people contributing to Geelong that we had lost because it wasn't safe for people to be there. With 34,000 people in Geelong, identifying as LGBTIQA+, so that's about 10%. Every single person loves someone that's a member of this community. And you might not think that you do, but if you haven't, it's probably, if you can't think of that person in your life, it's probably because they haven't told you. We all know people that identify as this community. And so while I completely agree everyone should get out there and have their say, but I do just want you, when you're providing that feedback, to really think about how you phrase feedback and how you present it, and really encourage you to be respectful. Imagine saying these things to someone that you love, to a sibling, to a partner, or to your child. Your feedback is valid and welcome, but please be respectful. We really want this community to be safe. They contribute, I'm an ally, but you contribute so much to my life daily in terms of creativity and arts and fun and support and companionship. And I want this community to feel safe in Geelong.
Councillor Sinclair. So put that to the vote. Those in favour? Anyone against? So carried unanimously. So those in favour: Councillor Aitken, Councillor Cadwell, Councillor Burson, Councillor Kados, Councillor Eddie Contel, Mayor Rich Contel, Councillor Nelson, Councillor Wilkinson, Councillor Sinclair, Councillor Story. So I don't think I've missed anyone, have I? Unanimously passed. Okay. All right. Response to petition, Lovely Banks Playground and Pedestrian Crossing Sound Barriers. Councillor moving that. Councillor Aitken to move. Councillor Eddie Contel second. Councillor Kados, Aitken.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Just to remind the councillors in the community that this report reflects a petition that the council received in relation to safety concerns and the lack of a child-friendly playground between Cox's Road and Purnell Road in Corio. The report has come back, and look, the community probably will be disappointed when they read the report, because it essentially tells them that Cox's Road and Anarchy Road is a responsibility of another authority, so council is not prepared to take any advocacy work or responsibility to follow up for you. And then they're also advised that if you want a new child-friendly playground, the council's going to conduct a review of its parks networks, and they can participate in the community consultation process again. That particular community will be exhausted from this response and will be disappointed that that's the response from the petition. What they were probably looking for was some reflection from the council report that acknowledged there was merits about the safety concerns that they raised in their petition. It is genuine that that is quite a treacherous part of Geelong in terms of road movements, and it does also lack a child-friendly playground in that area as well too. So I acknowledge that our responsibility is just noting the report, but I believe the community will be probably disappointed when they see the contents of the report, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Edgar.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, I acknowledge that we have provided a response to the petition. I really applaud the community for putting forward the petition, as I do with all community groups that do so for various matters. And there has been others, particularly around sound barriers in the Finesford area. What I will commit to doing is working with officers and Councillor Aitken in my capacity as Sport and Rec portfolio holder to see if there's any initiatives that we can identify through our means and bring them to the table going forward for future considerations.
Any other councillor? If not, Councillor Aitken, anything in closing?
Nothing further to add, Mr Mayor.
So put that to the vote. Those in favour? No one against? It's unanimous. Thank you. The next item is Municipal Monitor's Report of March 2025 and the Action Plan. Councillor Nelson moves. Councillor Kados, second. Councillor Nelson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll take the Municipal Monitor's Report as read. If you haven't read it, you can jump on the Victorian Government website and look at it. It states basically that the latest financial modelling indicates that while Council can meet its current service and asset management, as I spoke about before, it faces significant challenges in funding community infrastructure arising from growth. And what that means is when people talk about growing pains, that's what we're suffering from. Went on to say, this will require Council to undertake structural reform and put in place fiscal constraint in the medium term as a minimum. And when I said before about no new debt, that's what I meant. So it's good that the monitors see that as well. And they also stated that they are confident that Council can fulfil its functions and obligations and deliver for the community. And what that means is because they're not here, they are confident that we are doing the right thing by our constituents. So I thank the monitors for their say and their time here over the past few years, since 2017. But I think now is time for Council to earn the faith of the community and put that out to them that we are doing the right thing by the community. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Nelson. Councillor Kados.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. With regard to the Municipal Monitor's report, I think that the state government's done the right thing and actually removed the monitors. We've got a fresh council. Certainly had a lot of changes in senior management since those days when the council was dismissed. So there's been a lot of changes there, and I'm happy that the monitors are no longer there. But obviously they do have some things that we're taking on board, notices of motion, not to be used flippantly or for nefarious purposes, to be used properly as they should be, calling for an officer's report. Obviously the governance rules to be developed once the industry standard has come out. And some of the things we're adopting in the budget, as you can see, the debt level, prudential levels were 60.5%. Now the standard is 60, so we were 0.5% over the prudential borrowing limits as we speak. So we're making genuine efforts to reduce our debt. I wish the state government would do the same thing, but unfortunately we're doing the right thing and reducing our debt in accordance with what the monitors were after. And also some of the things about the way community grants are distributed, that where things are over a certain value, they should be part of the budgeting process rather than grants that are handed out. As you can see in the budget, we've also got the lighting project, so that's a separate budget item now. So if there's a community group wants to apply for lighting, they can do so through the budget process, and there's a dedicated bucket of money there for that purpose. But hopefully this will be the last Monitor's report we ever see at the City of Greater Geelong.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Councillor Aitken.
I wish to move an amendment, Mr Mayor, to the report. And I'll circulate around to the councillors. Yeah.
Some advice from governance as to whether this is allowable. I would counsel against that. I'll rule that it's not allowed. I've been given advice that there are matters under investigation at the moment, and this would be compromising those investigations as one, and would be going against the recommendations of the minister's report.
Sorry, are you saying there is an investigation underway at the present time, Mr Mayor?
Told that there may be, and so therefore it'd be inappropriate to be conducting it.
So
I think it would have been appropriate had you got some advice.
And that's why I'm actually asking for certainty
before the open public meeting, Councillor Aitken.
That's why I'm actually asking for certainty that there is an investigation request.
Debate to be having in the public, given that this is a Monitor's report. The Minister's been very specific as to the recommendations he has sought. If there's another issue that you're wishing to pursue, I don't believe this would be the appropriate time or place, given the advice I'm getting.
Investigations are coming.
I have to take that advice and overrule your amendment.
Look, Mr Mayor, because you've said you're ruling it out of order, can you actually read out what my request was? Because that's actually...
that would be, in itself would be inappropriate to put on the public record. Right? So, sorry about that. I think it's in your best interest as well that we not overstep the mark and create a problem for yourself or for us as a group.
I think
we are dealing with
I understand you're ruling the amendment out of order, Mr Mayor, but you're actually not even reading what the amendment asked for.
You've asked me, can you move an amendment, and I've sought advice and I've been told that it would not be an appropriate amendment.
Mr Mayor, I still wish to speak against the recommendation that's presented before Council tonight. The recommendation actually before us, a monitor actually writes a report which actually has recommendations in it. And there's two people that actually look at those recommendations. One is the council group and the other is also the minister. The minister responded to the monitor's report and actually asked the council to actually undertake 2 items associated with that report. The minister did not instruct the council group to actually follow every single one of the recommendations in the monitor's report. An example is that the local legislation for local government actually allows notice of motions. It actually, our basis at which we perform our democracy actually allows us to actually bring forward a motion to this chamber. The recommendation from the monitors is that we should only be bringing forward motions that actually call for a report. So the monitors are actually asking us to do something that is actually not constituted in the current legislation for local government in Victoria. What the report It's our responsibility of councillors how we respond to those recommendations. It's actually called a recommendation. A recommendation actually means that you actually consider it and you decide whether you wish to accept that recommendation or not. We are tonight being asked to accept every single recommendation and acknowledge what is written in the Monitor's report. But I'm not comfortable with the recommendations that are put forward. I'm not being given an opportunity to actually explain some of the reasoning behind that as well too. And as a consequence, I can't support the recommendation which gives carte blanche to every single recommendation. Parliament, governments all receive reports to them with recommendations, and the leaders or the government actually respond to each of those individual recommendations. And there are multiple examples where a government will say, we accept items 1, 2, 3 and 4 of the recommendations and we reject the others. Or there were 54 recommendations in a Royal Commission and the government says we are only going to accept the top 3. We are in that same position as a council group. If we actually don't wish to accept the recommendations of the Monitor's report, we can actually articulate that as a council group. And as a consequence, I actually will vote against this recommendation because the council actually is not individually looking at each of the recommendations. The council is actually just going, we accept everything. And I'm not of that same belief as an elected official in the City of Greater Geelong. I actually believe we should individually scrutinise every recommendation that was made by the Monitor and actually make a valued response to those. And a valued response isn't just to say yes to everything. The report does not actually identify why we're saying yes to any of the Monitor's recommendations. The report should actually say, this is the recommendation and this is the value and strategic response that this council makes to that particular recommendations, whether we accept it, whether we reject it, or whether we modify it. And this report provides none of that oversight or response to those recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Aitken. Anyone else wishing to speak in relation to the matter? Go back to Councillor Nelson to close.
Nothing further, Mr Mayor.
So put that to the vote. Those in favour? Against? It's carried. Thank you. Now we have a procedural motion. Council 2.7, the council meeting of 10th of April 2025 be cancelled. Mover Councillor Nelson, seconder Councillor Kados. Councillor Nelson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As you rightly said, this is a procedural motion, so the recommendation is that Council receive the report on cancellation of the April 10, 2025 meeting. To postpone the meeting was made in line with agreements made with Fair Work, to have further consultation with the ASU on the future of in-home community care services.
Councillor Nelson. Councillor Kados.
I think Councillor Nelson has summarised it quite well. The meeting was cancelled due to the Fair Work decision. So happy to second that Council received the report.
Presume no one else wishing to speak, so put that to the vote. Those in favour? Unanimously carried. The next item, 2.8, State Government Kinder Grant in relation to Bloinks Hub, Armstrong Creek. Mover is Councillor Katos, seconder Councillor Sinclair. Councillor Katos.
Thank you, Mayor. So basically, this is a contribution to a new kindergarten facility in Warralilly Boulevard in Armstrong Creek. And the Victorian School Building Authority has allocated, so the land belongs to council, but there's a modular building being put on there. And there's $4.2 million from the Victorian School Building Authority. $3.5 million is from council for putting the modular building there, landscaping, all the other things associated with that. But probably the real good news story of this, that this was originally budgeted to be with a tag of 18 million, and to be not delivered for another 3 years. So because the council has worked with the Victorian School Building Authority, it's going to be delivered the next financial year at a cost of, rather than $18 million to council, we're looking at $3.5 million. So a huge saving, and not just the saving to the ratepayer, but the bringing forward the time. So it's proposed to be a kindergarten. There's no maternal child health services at this one, but there are other neighbouring community facilities that do have maternal and child health facilities. So really it's a great outcome, and perhaps with this modular building, it's something council should be looking at further. We've got a lot of new buildings that need to be built, sporting facilities, community facilities. If we can find ways to save the ratepayer, give value to the ratepayer, and use perhaps these. So I commend the Victorian School Build Authority for finding that working with these modular buildings, and something we should look at seriously, because we build a lot of these style buildings, and I think it would be something that would be of great benefit to the ratepayer if we were to investigate further use of such buildings.
Councillor Sinclair.
Thank you. The 3217 postcode has more first-time home buyers than anywhere else in regional Victoria, and that means heaps and heaps of young families. I reckon there's a new baby that I see in the street every week, in my street alone. And I don't normally notice people's babies. I notice fur babies, but not human ones. But there's so many young families, and so there's a real need to build the facilities for educating those children once they reach kindergarten age. So really excited to see this community hub begin. We are focusing on the kinder at the moment, but the community hub, I've spent some time in the one in Armstrong Creek, in East Armstrong Creek, and it's such a vibrant place where people can come together. There's a whole lot of activities that are based there. And when we think about the health and wellbeing plan that was launched tonight, Armstrong Creek was identified as one of the areas with the highest rates of loneliness. There's research that suggests that loneliness has the same impact of smoking 15 cigarettes a day in your long-term health expectancy, because you don't have that community around you, your mental health suffers. So initiatives where we have people coming together to meet and build community, whether it's parents bonding over their children enrolled in kindergarten, or people that are there hiring a room for another activity, is so important for the health of our community. So I'm really pleased and really excited to see this project continuing.
Sinclair. Any other councillor wishing to speak on the matter? If not, Councillor Katos. Sorry, Councillor Nelson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I was just reflecting on, as a previous councillor for this area, I was just reflecting on the council was going to spend $18 million, and now, thanks to the state government, credit where credit's due, and the VSBA, I think this modular 3-room kinder is real out-of-the-box thinking. So good on them.
Sounds like a good one, yeah. Thank you, Councillor Nelson. Back to Councillor Katos to close.
Nothing further, Mayor.
So put that to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Then the next item, proposed lease of land at 116, 120 Purnell Road. Mover, Councillor Katos. Second, Councillor Aitken. Councillor Katos.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So this report before council is seeking submissions regarding leasing the land at 116 or 120 Purnell Road, Corio, for a term of up to 50 years for social housing. So this all comes back from 2022, when the previous council undertook community engagement about 3 sites for social housing, and this is one of them, being at Purnell Road, Corio. So the site did receive strong support, with 78% of respondents supporting the use of the land for social housing. So what this will do is propose to lease it. Obviously, a registered housing authority has not been picked yet. There will be a further process to do that, but this is going out to the community and saying this is our intention, that we wish to use this for social housing, and in a postcode which would be in great need of that additional social housing. it's a good area to be putting it. It's for a term of a 50-year lease, and when you look at that, you would need to have a longer lease. So obviously, if a registering housing provider were to do that, they would want some surety on their investment in the social housing, and he also keeps it in council ownership. That's the other important thing. So at the end of that 50 years, the property reverts back to council, unless, of course, the lease is extended, but we won't be worrying about that. But on that, look, I'm happy to support this motion and to set up a submissions review panel and see what the community thinks about leasing this piece of land for social housing.
Thank you. Councillor Aitken.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Look, housing affordability and housing access is actually the most significant issue that's been confronted in Australia and in Geelong in particular as well too. It's really good we've reached this position, but it's still too slow to address the concerns that exist in the market failure to provide social and affordable housing in Australia. What's really fascinating is the council did some really good work in 2018-19 to actually create the social housing plan, which went from 2020 to 2041. And as Councillor Katos has said, it actually identified that we had to build about 7,200 social and affordable housing opportunities in Geelong. And the reality is since the report was endorsed by the council, which was over 5 years ago now, we've actually built none. And this is actually the first opportunity that the council is being involved. And it is really important that we use this as a showcase of success so that we can promote to the broader community that community assets can actually be used to try to address what is one of the most significant, well, it is the most significant issue that our community is confronting. The reality is when we put forward this particular site, there were two other sites that came up on the list as well too, one in Belpost Hill and one in Bell Park. And it's really sad that only one of those three is still going forward at this particular time. We actually, when we did our audit of our land holdings, Mr Mayor, we actually identified up to 50 potential site locations, of which the top three included this one in Purnell. There's still another 47 on that particular list. And we did think that we had a model at how council could actually be directly engaged and assisting this urgent requirement that's in our community. So I'm thankful for the report that comes back and says we had our public submissions. Yes, there were some submissions in opposition to it. There were a lot of submissions in favour of it, but now's the time to get on with it. Actually ask some really good operators and providers to put forward expressions of interest and come back to the council and actually deliver a showcase opportunity for partnership between local government and the housing sector, especially the co-op housing sector is probably the model that the community probably will be more comfortable with as well too, and get on with it and actually deliver it 5 years after a strategy is adopted, and this is the first action that's been delivered from it, is not acceptable in anyone's standards. So let's get on with it and let's start trying to address the most important issue that exists in the community.
Councillor Aitken. Any other councillor who speaks? Councillor Wilkinson.
Just to echo the great work that was done on that housing strategy and the opportunity we have in Geelong. And really, there are other opportunities out there, not only just the two pieces of land that was also considered as part of this particular project, but right across the city of Greater Geelong, I think it's time to reevaluate and see what we can do in this space. And I think we need to be quite creative and nimble to be able to, go some part in making a solid contribution as a council.
So Wilkinson, Councillor Sinclair.
Again, to echo the comments of Councillor Aitken and Councillor Wilkinson, and just to add, housing first is a model of stability is proven around the world. If we want people to be able to contribute in our community and in our economy, they need to have housing. You can't go to a job interview if you don't have somewhere to shower and change and sleep the night before. So when we look at people contributing to our economy, to the community, to recovering from addiction and all sorts of health issues, we really need to make sure that housing is a priority. And I think our community social housing plan really supports that. And echoing Councillor Aiken and Councillor Wilkinson, let's identify more pieces of land that we can create for more housing opportunities, and let's get people in our community housed, because 7,200 households is a lot, and we don't want those people rough sleeping.
Thank you, Councillor Sinclair. Any other councillor? Otherwise, Councillor Kados to close.
Nothing further, Mr Mayor.
All right, so put that to the vote. Those in favour? Anyone against? No? Unanimous. So the next item is... That's good. Thank you for that. Lovely. The next item, proposed road discontinuance and sale of land, Di Stefano Drive, North Geelong. Can I have someone move that? Councillor Kados, and second, Councillor Aitken. Councillor Kados.
Mr Mayor, so as the title says, this motion proposes to discontinue and sell the land, which is currently known as Di Stefano Drive, but essentially doesn't exist anymore because it's part of the Max facility. And I find this motion a bit unusual, as given the time frame. So the agreement was first negotiated, it's commenced in 2011. So where the road is actually the Max facility, and my late mother was actually, probably her room was on top of where Di Stefano Drive actually is now when she was at Max. So this has sort of been out there for a long time. It needs to be sorted out though. I don't know how this one slipped through, but obviously, as you can see in page 123 of the council minutes, you can see the aerial shot and the 2 parcels of land that are proposed to be sold to Max. But even though it's taken a while, we still have to go through the correct processes of selling the public land, and there will be a submissions review panel appointed to hear any submissions, and then once that panel takes place, there'll be a further report to council, and I'm sure the officers will negotiate a fair and reasonable price given the age of this. I'm not sure what the original price tag was that was put on it, but we'll see what comes back from the community consultation. But I'm happy to support this motion.
Councillor Kados. Councillor Aitken.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. This land actually has some infamy in Geelong, and it's not the first time it's actually come before council. The land's actually named after former Mayor Di Stefano, and in fact there was a request, for those who don't know the history associated with that, former mayor actually was found associated with significant gambling and embezzlement of his clients' funds in Geelong. And at the time, after his case was completed, there was a request before council to actually remove the name Di Stefano from the site location because it was associated. It's quite an irony now that the site's actually essentially going to no longer exist because it's actually being sold to the neighbouring, potentially being sold to the neighbouring property owners as well too. So it will bring to a conclusion a piece of history that has significant infamy associated with it. And the other point I wish to make on this is that the report actually says that the council in December 2011 actually agreed to sell the land. So it's actually taken 14 years, nearly 13 and a half years, to execute the decision that was made by the council, which I suspect the mayor was probably a councillor back in 2011, or you had departed by then.
Councillor Edie Contel got elected in 2010. That's bogged
Point of order.
What I just wish to... This is a classic example of the wheels of local government clearly move very slowly, and after 13 and a half years, the request that was actually made by the council in December 2011 is finally being acted upon. So there is probably what the council should be doing is looking back to actually say, why did it take so long? What were the issues? And to avoid a 13 and a half year implementation of a council recommendation.
Other councillor wishing to speak? Councillor
Well, I suppose in response to Councillor Aitken's comments, they're better late than never.
To the vote, those in favour? Carried unanimously. The next one is the amendment to the South Geelong Urban Design Framework in consideration of the panel report and adoption of the amendment. Councillor Cadwell to move. A seconder, Councillor Kados. Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Council is recommending to adopt this amendment, which is called C432GGEE, to implement the South Geelong Urban Design Framework into the Greater Geelong Planning Scheme. The amendment applies to land bound by Latrobe Terrace to the west, Fyan Street to the south, Garden Street to the east and McKillop Street to the north, and includes key new development areas on Moorabool Street and the Barwon Water site on Lonsdale Street near South Geelong Station. So South Geelong Station, Cardinia Park, shops along Fyan Street, Richmond Oval and Cardinia Aquatic Centre all located within the area. And this amendment will facilitate a more diverse housing stock, improved accessibility and the preservation of places of heritage significance. It aims to facilitate public realm improvements to the area around South Geelong Station, such as greenery and new paths, creating a vibrant and sustainable precinct for locals and visitors to the area. The UDF was adopted by Council in 2022 to be implemented by introducing new planning policies, expanding the South Geelong increased housing diversity area and extending the heritage overlay to nearly 200 additional properties and rezoning some key development areas. There was an independent panel that met in November of 2024 to review the 51 public submissions. 19 were accepting or provided only comments, and 32 of these objected or requested changes. The City had engaged with some of the submitters prior to the panel hearing, which led to some issues being resolved. There were 5 further submitters that presented to the panel, including the City of Greater Geelong. The panel was supportive of the amendment, finding it to be strategically justified with a balanced approach to meet community expectation and housing needs. And the extensive consultation and changes that were made in response to the community feedback were acknowledged in the report, with some minor amendments also being recommended. The report to Council says this amendment is in keeping with our own City of Greater Geelong settlement strategy and social housing plan to provide infill housing to support population growth. There's a significant amount of information in this report, all 500 pages, including attachments. So for any avid readers and South Geelong residents who have some hours to kill on a weekend, I recommend they review the report. Thank you.
Mr Cadwell. Councillor Katos.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So the planning scheme amendment, C432GGEE, I don't know where they get these names from, but it's certainly that area. It's quite a strategic area. Obviously, you have Cardinia Park, you've got GMHBA Stadium in there, the Cardinia Pool. It's quite significant commercial holdings on the, particularly on the east side of Moorabool Street, and then the South Geelong Station. The old Barwon Water site and also Richmond Crescent there. So it's quite significant areas, and there's certainly development is encouraged, particularly along Moorabool Street and around that station precinct. But there's also respective heritage, as Councillor Cadwell has said. It's one of the earlier parts of Geelong that was settled, and as a name, it was South Geelong. So this was the southern boundary of our city for quite a while. So there was a lot of heritage homes in this area which are protected, but it also recognises that this part of Geelong is very close, is on the fringe of our CBD, within walking distance, cycling distance, very easy to commute into the CBD. So it's a significant area to perhaps get a little bit more population in, but also at the same time being respectful of the area and heritage. But also more business opportunities, particularly I think along Moorabool Street, as that's a bit of a, I think particularly that part of Moorabool Street, those shops from, say, the railway bridge down to where Kia is there on the corner, the old church there. I think that areas could really have a lot more work done to it and a lot more retail offerings or even commercial offerings there, so which this encourages. So with that, I'm happy to commend the motion to the chamber.
Councillor Kados. Anyone else wishing to speak on the matter? Not Councillor Cadwell to close.
Nothing further.
Further, so put that to the vote. Those in favour? No one against, unanimous. So then we move the next matter, record of informal meeting of councillors. Who will move of that? Councillor Nelson and Councillor Story. You moved your hand at the right time. That'll do. Councillor Nelson.
As said, Mr Mayor.
And Councillor Story, anything to add with that? No. So anyone else wishing to speak? If not, we put that to the vote. All those in favour? So that's carried unanimously. We then need to move the next two matters into confidential. So I have Councillor Nelson move those and Councillor Wilkinson. So the first one... All right, so the first one, the Horseshoe Bend community. So...
Confidential.
Just to move it into confidence.
Oh, sorry.
Just to move it into confidence.
Yep.
So all those in favour? No one against. And then the second item, again, Councillor Nelson moves, Councillor Wilkins second. Without debate, we'll move to put that one also into confidential. So those in favour? No one against. So we close the meeting. It looks like it's closed.